first question, how did you get into voice acting?
So I got into voice acting, first off. Long story in this, kind of, is I was a fan when I was a little girl. I was a big fan of Sailor Moon, Ronin Warriors, because that's what I watched on USA at like 6 o'clock in the morning every day. And because I was so into playing pretend, I got into theater. And so I went through theater all the way up until college. And while I was in college, I started doing a performance group known as Airship Isabella, and we went to conventions and started performing. There I met Chris Ayers, who was a director at Sentai, and he's also done a ton of off-Broadway work and fight direction. So while I was in college, he was a great resource to talk to when I was feeling like, well, is my director being fair? Is this really what I need to do? And it was great to have this other person talking, being like, yes, they're right, or maybe they're not thinking about this. He's such a great improv teacher also, and learning more from him and getting advice from him. Well, after college, I moved down to Texas, and about 6 months or a year being down there, he gave me a call and was like, you want to come audition? I'm like, sure. And yeah, that's kind of how it happened. It was very much a lucky path.
That's really cool. So I would say my next question is, all right, so when we did a little bit of research, we saw your first project was Book of Bantorra.
Oh, the Book of Bantorra, yes.
All right, so how does that, like when you went to basically, you took on a role, how does that differentiate between, like, say, like something that you did do more recent?
I think back then I was way more scared. Definitely. At the time, anime was being put out a little slower also, especially now that I recorded that before simuldubs and simulcasts were a thing. So I could watch the show before I went in. I could watch the show, see a little of it, and then go in and record the show. So I always got to go in slightly prepared for what I was going to get myself into. That's not as much of a thing anymore. People are finding out, like, saddle up, you're playing this person, look at the screen and go. And it's like, oh, okay. So there's definitely been a big difference. I'm definitely more confident in the booth today than I was back then. I think it's very easy to be intimidated when you walk into a room and you have just the director and the sound engineer, and it's like, here's this black box I'm going into, and I'm going to make some noise and hope I'm not too weird for you. Luckily, it's anime, so everybody and everything is weird. So it's definitely changed a little bit. It's not like my friend Jessica tells stories when she watched Cutie Honey on VHS to learn the role, and they had paper scripts and everything, and they were recording on VHS. She calls it the good old days. So there's no big jump that's happened outside. We have sped up the process, and we have really taken steps over the past few years to make sure the writing fits better. People are putting a lot of efforts in making sure the translation and the ADR scripts are close as possible and don't lose any context now. And yeah, everything's being done faster too.
Okay, so I had a question where I was going to ask you, like, when you actually dress a role, are you looking to, like, create something different, or do you kind of rely on the Japanese voice actor? But you already, like, answered.
Oh, kind of.
Like, answer my question. Like,
so it's kind of cool. With that, I love listening to the Japanese version first. I love watching it. I love seeing what they did with it and taking a lot of inspiration from them. Especially Ai Kayano. I love everything she does, and she played opposite to me in both. She was the original voice for Mei Tachibana in Say I Love You, and she was also the voice for Shiro in No Game, No Life. So I love listening to her. Ultimately, though, when I go in the booth, I'll have this idea, and the director helps also shape it. So while I take inspiration, I also take their idea of what they're going to do too and blend it in, and we kind of make an amalgamation of the Japanese and what the director wants to see happen.
That was a beautiful answer. I would say, excuse me.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, so you threw out a few names there. I guess the question I'm gonna ask you, like, out of all the roles that you've done in your short career, what would you say was your favorite character?
This is like picking a favorite child. It's very hard because you put so much of yourself into everybody. Shiro was someone I fell in love with when I actually was watching the show, and I got dangerously attached, which you should never do when you're an actor and you watch anime like I do, and you see a role and you're like, man, I really wish I could play that. Don't do that. That's not healthy, and you're setting yourself up for tears. And Shiro was one of those that I was like, oh no, I catch myself really liking her. Oh no. So I had to have this big pep talk with myself one night and being like, you know what? Someone awesome's going to play it. Someone awesome is going to play that role, and it's going to be great. And the next day I got the call to play the role. And I cried in a closet. Not even lying. So I think if I say if there was one that I was really, really wanting that I got, it was definitely Shiro. Shiro was that role that I was like, yes, that was the role I had wanted and got. So she does have a favoritism in it. And then some other characters that hold real close to there is, gosh, there's so many. Matsurika from Maria-Holic is really fun because she's so mean. And I play a lot of nice characters or monotone characters that are sassy and mean. But Matsurika, kicks it up. And I love it. I love her for that. And I got to meet Jessica Cavello off that, and she is one of my best friends. She's awesome. So that was really cool experience to share with her. So, yeah.
So what would you say was the most difficult role that you had to play?
The most difficult? To emotionally get through the show, Shuvi would definitely take the cake from No Game No Life 0. First off, the German is really hard with my voice that I use. The voice I use for Shuvi and Shiro is always in the back of my throat, and German is a very forward language when you speak it, so when you speak German words, you want to speak forward. So it made it kind of a confliction to speak as her because I'm so used to talking in this voice that's back here, and then having to say words like Prüfer or Zwei, and not sending out too much energy, because German is very energetic. It was hard, and emotionally, that movie also devastated me. Luckily, I didn't see the end until after, but Scott, who plays Sora and Riku, was right there. So I'm like, shut up, I'm not crying, you're crying. What are you? No. But yeah, Shuvi definitely wins. Or following that, Mio and Midori from Little Busters is probably one of the hardest because she's split into two people and then they have to come together, and it's gut-wrenching when it happens. That was the first time I just sobbed in the booth openly. I had to have a hug afterwards. But it was really hard to have this moment where I was talking to myself and going from one character, then swapping over to this other character and doing the scene all over again, and just keeping it together was hard. So those definitely are the top difficult ones.
That sounds really difficult.
It was difficult. And we even did it the easy way, where I went through as one character first and then swapped to the second character, but I knew what was coming, so I was also crud, I don't, nope, try not to break.
So normally when, so basically you're normally in the booth by yourself, or you're with let's say a Disney film where everybody's in the room,
yeah,
recording it.
So normally with ADR, because you are matching flaps to animation that already exists, it's easier to go one by one with the characters and work them independently. With things like Disney movies and a lot of American animation, the animation's being done based off your voice work. So you can have that moment where everyone's sitting in a room and throwing lines at each other. That's the dream job for most people who voice act, is being in that ensemble and being in the room and tossing back and forth, having a day of it. ADR is very isolating. You're by yourself. You don't get to have that back and forth because the poor sound engineer would lose his mind because he's like, does this line fit the lip flaps? No? Do it again.
Yeah, I actually have a background in sound engineering, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I feel so bad. They'd go nuts. I'd feel awful for any person in that situation, being trying to ADR dub and having a bunch of people in the room. No. Our ADR engineers are good, but that's hell for them.
Yeah, it really is. Like, it's very, like, taxing a little bit. So, okay, so, you gotta give me a second.
Oh, you're fine.
You answered a few of my questions.
Oh, sorry, I just
that's fine. That means I can get more, we can get more content.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, let's see. Alright, so you've been in the industries for a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
So what is like some of the practices that they're currently doing that you wish would change in the future maybe and become better?
I think let's see. Practices that are currently, I would love to see more ability to see things beforehand. I think working at the speed that we do right now, I think we can, if we had just a little more prep time, we could see so much more and so fast. But we're at the point now where Japan releases and then we turn around and release a dub. That's crazy. And I think that's really cool for the fans, but I think for the actors, I think the actors would love more time to like soak in the character and do it. And I think that would be really cool to provide more opportunity. Or even like, hey, here's the character designs for the auditions and then for people to go into it seeing it. I think that would be really cool. Otherwise, I would love to see, actually personally in the industry, more recognition for sound engineers because they give so much. There's so many great sound engineers out there and they make you feel awesome. Like when like the actors get a lot of credit for doing the voices, but the sound engineers put that together. They're the people who make the actors sound good. I met Ricky Watson who does Rick and Morty and he does a ton of other work that he is fantastic, and I wish people got more credit. Ricardo, who did all of No Game No Life Zero, I wish he would have been able to come to us to the premiere with us, but they didn't invite him, and I'm like, no! Ricardo put this together! So I think more recognition for people just outside the actors and directors would be great also.
I like the sound of that.
I think it would be... Well, like when you're in theater, the actors are always the ones getting the applause. But at the end of the show, normally the actors always indicate to the lights, they indicate to the sounds, and to their team. And normally when they're closing, everybody gets to come out on stage and bow. So you see the entire ensemble. That doesn't get to happen with anime, and I wish it did, because their names are in the credits, but I wish you got to see more of the people who were involved in the production. Because there are some really cool people that I don't think get enough credit. And also, I think sound engineering, a lot of actors now work out of their homes, so you need to learn how to sound engineer more as an actor to protect yourself so you can actually get work. So it'd be a great opportunity to have them there and learn from them as well.
Clap to the unsung hero.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Ricardo, you are wonderful. You have made me sound so great. Brent, to you too. They are all wonderful heroes who have done so much work.
All right, so that's the end of our time.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for being patient.
Oh, not a problem.